It's nice to have you join us again on Talk Point on Lagos Television. My name is Omololu Rosonwo. Today on Talk Point, we'll be looking at human rights promotion. We are looking at issues that concerns human rights. In any society, it is expected that the citizens will live right. It is expected that the government will provide certain basic amenities for the citizens, and it is expected that the citizens will also reciprocate by being law-abiding and also doing what is right, so that things can move better. My name is Omololu once again, and I welcome you to Talk Point. Today I have somebody that will be discussing that with me. He is Ayodele Amin. He is the Executive Director of Human Rights Advancement, Development and Advocacy Center, with the acronym URIDAC. Ayo, how are you now?
I'm fine. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Nice having you.
Yeah.
Yes, our focus today is on human rights.
Yep.
Promotion, human rights, and other things related. Now, let me first ask you, what are the indices for the promotion of human rights? What are the things that are expected to be seen when you want to promote human rights in any society?
Thank you very much. I think let me first explain what human rights connotes.
Okay.
Because growing up in a society with big experience of military rule, mostly we kind of think human rights in the context of protection of the right rather than promotion of the right. And over 2 decades now, things have also moved on to something they call developmental right as well. And there are also the notion of positive and negative right. And to explain it better is just to ask the question that if you create a new state, okay, what are the important elements of human rights you will try to put in place? And because there is a link between human rights and economy, people will start to put in prison, put in laws and regulation, so that in the conduct of your business, you have a system of rule of law to be able to address it. And then you then need to now move to what we call human rights treaties, which is basically you giving what we call self-promise. And I do explain this in a way that why do states go to the United Nations and sign human rights treaties when they are the only one that can violate it? Individuals can violate human rights treaties. It's only the state can do that. And it's because of self-promise. It's a kind of thing that I'm promising my people not to torture them, but I'm inviting my colleague to help me to keep that promise. And that is just a summary of the human rights framework. Okay. I was once arrested in the Gambia, and for my role then as a staff of Amnesty International, and I was taken to the serious crime department, and the young officer was asking me, do you think you can just come here and do anything? I said, well, I've been to a country that is worse than this. I've been to war-torn countries like Liberia and Sierra Leone. He said, but why do you have to come here? I said, you invited us here. And he said, when did I do that? I said, when you signed international human rights treaties. When you sign up that treaties, you are presenting yourself to be evaluated. And that is the work of Amnesty International, to evaluate whether you are keeping the promises you made to your people, not to NGOs.
I'm sure the guy that actually arrested you or that was interrogating you, let me put it there, did not know the extent of what they signed. It must have been signed by his government, you understand? But he doesn't even know the import.
Well, it doesn't understand what it entails. That is one. There's another funny story around it, because the Inspector General of Police then was named Jesus. So he was actually in Gambia, and when we went back after the arrest, because we don't just leave it, we want to engage them to improve the situation. And he was telling us there is no human rights violation in the Gambia. A year after, he was arrested and in jail, and these people are calling us to help
Oh, the hunter being hunted now.
Exactly. So that is why
Interesting.
it is very important to build an institution. I do tell people in the Gambia, because it's a country I work on, I led part of my work on the Gambia Day of Action that have a little bit of input into getting Jammeh out of office. And next time I went there and they were trying to praise me for it, and I said, no, all of us have a little bit of Jammeh in us. If we don't build institution, you will produce another monster like that. And today, I'm engaging now on a journalist case that has been arrested by the government in power for publishing a statement that the president is trying to appoint somebody to replace him. So
That's in the Gambia.
In the Gambia recently, and I think I discussed that with Falano, who is taking that forward. But I'm just telling you what will happen. But Gambia is a small country. You know, we have bigger countries. So what we have done as an organization is to go beyond what Amnesty is doing, which is the State of Human Rights report, just looking at mostly at the negative right, but to take into consideration the situation of the country and see how we can provide a solution. So we tend to look at each country in West Africa. We release what we call the West African Human Rights Report yearly. Okay. And this is a report that not only come to name and shame. That is really not our intention. Our intention is to be able to help states to say, some states don't know how many treaties they have ratified. They don't know. So we have that in the report, that you have ratified such a number of treaties, you have not ratified such a number of treaties. There is outstanding report of such a number of years with the African Commission. So we draft a human rights framework for West Africa, you know, which stem from looking at the UN treaties, looking at the African Court, looking at AU treaties, looking at the African Commission, then coming to the country, looking at human rights provision in your national constitution, as well as looking at the status of your human rights commission in your country. And based on that, we try to rank states and provide recommendations for them on how they can improve their human rights situation. That we have been doing, and we have a report that we are hoping to launch in the next few weeks in the Gambia.
Then we'll look at some of the human rights abuses and probably the report of some of the weak areas that are yet to be implemented. But let me come to Nigeria.
Yeah.
Yes, we're in Nigeria now.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable with the level of human rights that we have? Or if we were to situate it before now and now, have you seen any improvement, or right after we got democracy back on track?
Well, let me start by saying that it is very difficult to compare human rights. I remember a meeting which I was opportune to be part of between the global head of Amnesty then, Pierre Sani, at a hotel with late Dr. Beko Rasamkuti and Mr. Femi Falano. And they were hungry that at some point, that was during their budget time, that they invited Amnesty to come to a program, and they did it. And they think fighting for democracy is tantamount to fighting for human rights. And the global head of Amnesty response was, it's difficult for him to ascertain that democracy possesses the best human rights connotation. Because if the danger in that is that you provide a negative excuse for countries that are not democratic, that they have the liberty to violate the rights of their people, since only democracy. So we don't discriminate on the system of government, because the requirement for human rights is clear. It's not cumbersome. Okay. Once you sign the treaty, you are supposed to do certain things around it. The first one is principle of pars non servanda. You are not supposed to take any action that will defeat the purpose and the object of that treaty. Okay, even if I just signed and you have not ratified. So we don't compare, and we don't compare rights between one right and another. between one country and another. Of course, we can look at the figures, but the major thing is, how do you explain to an individual to say we are the best ranking human rights country in the world, but we are violating your own right because it's a small portion of it? You can't explain that. No person's right should be violated. But coming to your question, we are not still at the point where I will be happy with the state of human rights in Nigeria. I know the Human Rights Commission is doing its best, and a lot of civil rights organizations is doing the best. But in our human rights ranking, the best country when it comes to human rights as of today is Cape Verde.
Yes, I saw that report, and I'm like, okay, if Cape Verde is the best country on human rights,
And Benin Republic as well.
Benin Republic.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm wondering why Nigeria, with that brotherly role, is not also ranked. Rather, we're ranked as an insecure state to some extent, with Burkina Faso and maybe Sierra Leone and others. Why is that so?
I will explain why. Because it is you need to understand the human rights language, okay? Because when someone is murdered, okay, we call it a crime, okay? In human rights connotation, that is a loss of right to life. Okay, the right to live of that person has been taken. Okay? Now, if it is taken by a non-state actors, it's still not a human rights violation. It's just a crime.
Okay.
But if there is no action taken by the state to give justice to the family of the victim, then we now have what you call the breach, which means you are now moving from just a crime, and the state is now violating the rights of the family of the victim because they are not getting justice. So that is the implication. So the more your extrajudicial execution, unlawful killing goes up, the lower your human rights ranking. Okay. And if there is no extrajudicial execution in Cape Verde, you can understand why they are like that. But it goes beyond that. We are not just looking at violation of rights. We're also looking at how many treaties they have signed. Do you have human rights language in your national constitution? Do you have a human rights commission? What is the status of your reporting to the African Commission? So all those things we put together to do the ranking.
Okay. Coincidentally, Nigeria has signed a whole lot of treaties to ensure that rights of Nigerians are not violated.
Yes.
But we still see in some areas, the right to associate, the right to
freedom of expression,
express, and which may seem to somehow tight. Let me put it that way. And you also see when people are supposed to express themselves, they're saying stay in one area. Is it to avoid chaos or catastrophe? Is that why that is so?
Well, when it comes to human rights, we always say the right of a person to spread his hand is limited by the right of the other person to protect his nose. Some human rights have limitations, okay? You might have freedom of expression, but you also have the right to be responsible, okay? And there are legal connotations in terms of that, okay? But the fundamental right of freedom of expression is also contained in the African Commission for Human and People's Rights Act, okay? You must be free to express yourself, okay? And if I express myself to you and you feel an impact that my expression have caused you some kind of damage, then you can go to court. That is still a civil issue. Now, where it becomes difficult is that if the state now say it caused them a damage, then they need to prove what damage. Just like the Gambian case where I'm telling you, somebody did a press conference and say, you are going to be supporting this person. If that is not, do your own press conference and say, we are not supporting the person. So by charging the person for falsification of information or saying something falsely, you are intimidating him and you are violating his freedom of expression.
Okay, let me come down to Lagos. I know that the state government has put some measures in place over the years to tackle sexual and gender-based violence.
Yeah.
So now, from what you have just said, the number of prosecutions and the number of arrests made and prosecutions, could that time to increase the perception and the good rating of the state in that direction, or Nigeria as a whole?
Yes, definitely. Whatever happens in the state will affect the country as a whole. But this might also be very important for us to understand the extent of prosecution, because it might also be a lead, because we are looking at how many people have been prosecuted, how many people are not prosecuted. Because our experience in West Africa, especially in Sierra Leone, is family negotiation around gender-based violence. We have witnessed an instance whereby a young girl of 12 was raped, and the family are negotiating to say they need to be paid, or the rapist should just marry her. So then becomes a difficult thing for human rights activists to ensure prosecution. And from the report, we have seen that even in Liberia, they have almost 560-something sexual gender-based violence recorded. And that is just the work of one institution, trying to take that forward. So it is really not that an easy thing when it comes to sexual violence. What is clear is that we can't give up, and we must continue to prosecute sexual, gender-based and sexual violence.
I'm able to say that in Lagos now, I'm saying it because I'm privy to that, and
Yeah.
we also know that it is difficult now to molest, harass, or treat somebody in such a way that you cut or bruise them,
Yeah.
because there's already an agency
that is dealing with that.
that is dealing with that.
Yeah.
So, and people are reporting, although
Yeah.
some are still silent
Yeah.
on that issue, but we're seeing more people come out to report, and we see prosecutions. I just thought I should also mention that. And I don't know if you have heard cases in such areas.
No, not specifically, but the point is that one of the biggest issues we need to address in order to enhance human rights is the problem of impunity.
Okay.
Because impunity is that thing that allows a reputation of a behavior or an incident. Because if somebody does something and we don't bring him or her to justice, first of all, he thinks he can do it again. And second, well, other people think they can do it. He or she went scot-free. I too, I can do it. But when we ensure that justice is given at any point in time, then it's going to discourage a lot of people from doing that, which is what the Lagos State institution have been doing.
Okay, because time may not really be on our side, I also need to ask you one or two questions
Yes,
more.
that's right.
Let's quickly look at those findings of the
Of the report,
2023 report and the solutions to
Yeah.
those findings. Yes,
Yeah.
you have found them. Now, what do you think is the way out so that it won't continue to fester?
One of the things we try to focus on this report is the threat to democracy.
Okay.
With the coup d'etat and the issues surrounding it in Mali, in Burkina Faso, and in Niger. We all know what happened with Gambia, when the president refused to hand over after he lost an election, and actually he had not read the ECOWAS treaty properly there, and the threat of military force actually forcing to hand over power, which is one good thing. But in this recent case, these three countries have left ECOWAS because there's a clause that says you can leave. And now, the drafter of the treaty never thought any country will ever consider leaving ECOWAS because of the benefit of ECOWAS.
So
is enormous.
are you saying now that because of that tied the hands of the president of ECOWAS and member states, because they cannot prosecute and issues cannot be carried forward in that direction?
Well, you need to understand the way treaty behave. Okay, and when you have a treaty, you must be a signatory or you must ratify the treaty for the treaty to be binding on you. So if you withdraw from that treaty, so zero tolerance and all other aspects to check unconstitutional takeover of government becomes irrelevant to you because you are no longer part of that body.
Okay.
But in our report, we deep further than that. And the question is, how do we even get here? We kind of look at zero tolerance to constitutional change of government just in terms of the military. What about the civilians that have been doing this? Military don't just wake up and take over government. So there is something we call a civilian coup has already happened before the military finalize it. So what happened to those leaders in West Africa who try to do third time or fourth time or fifth time or sixth time?
In office.
What about those who rig elections? That is unconstitutional as well.
But what if the constitution of that particular country gives room for 3, 4, 5 times? Because
I have no problem with that, but I'm only talking about those countries that try to change their constitution to allow them. For Gambia now, the president wants to do a third term. There is no limitation on that in their constitution. It's his right to do it. But it is the responsibility of the citizen of Gambia to say yes or no through their voting.
Okay, let me just ask you this now because time is not on our side. As we round up now, your advice for governance in terms of promotion of human rights.
Yeah, in the report, we have about 12 pages of recommendations, including to each specific country in West Africa. But the general advice is that we need to strengthen our human rights institution.
Okay.
We need to ensure that our constitution abide, because, you know, in West Africa, we have monolith and we have dualist state. So some countries, when they ratify treaties, it automatically bind on them. Some needs to make another law in their country to make the treaty binding. So we are advising them to do that. We are advising them to pay attention to recommendation, an international recommendation from the UN, rapporteurs and other agencies in terms of helping them to improve the human rights institution. We also advise them that the Human Rights Commission must be strengthened. A Human Rights Commission should not be an arm of government. It should be an independent commission to be able to do its work. We also advise that civil society organization should be more active in advocating for human rights. So we have detailed recommendations for everyone.
Okay, thank you so much. I've been speaking with Ayodele Amin. He's the Executive Director, Human Rights Advancement, Development and Advocacy Center with the acronym URIDA. Thank you for being a part of Top Point. Yes, I want to believe that you'll continue to promote human rights, not only in Nigeria and across.
For the rest of my life.
Thank you so much for being a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
On that note, we have come to the end of Top Point. 767 and 112 are still the lines always call in times of emergency. Stay out of trouble. Ensure that you do what is right so that the society can get better. I am Omalulu, so see you some other time.